East and West learning connections.
Helps people of different cultures break barriers and connect with each other.
Now let's transition to the English session. So I'm going to invite Terry to join us now. So Terry, can you say hi to everyone now again?
Hello again.
Can
you see me? I'm in the corner here.
Yeah. So
there we are.
Yeah. So for those of you who are new, yeah, Terry is our consultant, and he was a professor at a Humboldt College. He used to teach Canadian studies. Yeah, so he's very knowledgeable. Yeah, so in addition to the questions we're going to discuss here, and later on you can also ask whatever questions you have concerning the topics we discussed today. So before we go, actually, Young asked a question. So let's say if we have any matters we need to consult from the MPs, members of the parliament. So they might ask us to give our personal information, like our date of birth, names, Anna. So we might be concerned that one of the concerns we might have is do they might know if we votes for them or not. Okay, so Terry, so considering this question, so what's your response to that?
Well, my first response is that the ballot is secret, so that the poll clerks are sworn to not reveal any information about those who are voting, meaning the person who gives you the ballot and to whom you give the ballot, or is there when you put it in the box, if they somehow or other seem to have got some information about how you voted, they are sworn not to tell because it's a secret ballot. Now, I think the question has arisen, if I understand it correctly, if you are consulting a member of the provincial parliament, a member of the federal parliament, and or your councillor, can information that one of those takes from you be passed on to another one on those three levels? No. Again, that's private information. So they are not collecting information from you, including information on how you voted. In the system itself, they can't do that. However, there are many things that have arisen over the years that encourage people to give information that can be used by the candidates and that might be passed on. And that would be not in the context of you inquiring or complaining to one of those levels of government, but in the context of polling. There was a Canadian Prime Minister called John Diefenbaker, and his opinion of polls was that they were for dogs to pee on. There is only one poll that counts. It's the one at the secret ballot. Mm-hmm. Everything else, your answer to can be, I don't want to talk to you. Because the polling companies are frequently employed by the political parties, for obvious reasons, to get information about how you voted, how you will vote, how your grandfather voted, or anything else. It's none of their blankety blank, I'm putting in swear words there, business. Tell them to go away. That's my answer, because it's a secret ballot. And the only person in humanity that needs to know, or that should be knowing, about how you voted is you. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, yeah. I asked, like, when you go to those members office, they'll take down your name and address. So there's no way they can know who you voted, right?
Unless you tell them.
Yeah, okay.
So don't.
Okay.
It's none of their business. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, in a media-driven society, and in the days of John Diefenbaker, it was radio, television, and newspapers. And now, of course, it's so-called social media, most of which is rubbish. Don't tell people about how you vote. It's none of their blankety blank business.
Mm. I have another question. So the cities have bylaws, and federal and provincial governments, they have laws. So what is exactly this bylaw? Is it easier to change bylaw? Like, what's the major difference between a bylaw and a law?
Right. Well, it means a secondary law to the another law that might take precedence over it because it has been made at a higher level. And as Stephen has indicated to you, there are two, and in fact, in a sense, three levels. But the third level, which is municipal, is dependent ultimately on the second level, which is provincial. So, in other words, bylaws are those that take place, or I should say, that are made, that modify the laws that are made at a higher level. So, things like parking would be an example of bylaws. Things like not parking your car on your neighbor's driveway. All of those sorts of things are not laws that are made at the provincial or federal levels, but they have to be reasonably in tune with those higher levels of law. Now, it's rather like the term by-election. You've probably heard that. We've had them recently where a member has left for whatever reason, and they have to have an election, a special election in that constituency. Well, it's not a general election. It's a by-election, meaning it's only in a particular area for a particular reason, but it must still be done within the general system of laws that's made at a higher level. So if you have a by-election, you can't change the rules for the election because it's a by-election. Well, the same thing goes with the bylaws that cities and other municipalities make. They can't be contradictory to laws that are made at a higher level. So it is, if you like, a hierarchical system. The top level is federal, the next level is provincial, and the municipal level, which is dependent upon the provincial, and you can see that in the example that Stephen gave you about the island airport extension. They're fighting about it now. The province can and might yet impose an extension of that airport, but the city, particularly the local councillors in that area, don't want this to happen for various reasons. The province could push it through, but they'd have to push it through, first of all, the relevant assembly, whether it's the council or whether it's people who support them in the council, or whether it's at the provincial level. But then it might be challenged in the courts because the courts are always something you can fall back on. And then the court might rule that this thing that had occurred is unconstitutional. You've heard that phrase, that word. And that means that it's been pushed through by the province, but it shouldn't have been because of whatever the reasons are that the judges give why it shouldn't have been done. So as you can see, the three levels of government, the third of which is dependent on the second, are actually checking one another as they go along, as it were. And if you're working through those levels of government, you may have recourse to a higher level if a lower level doesn't, you can't get what you want. It's supposed to be working in your favor. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you. I saw Ian raised his hand. Ian.
Hi. Good evening.
Evening.
My favorite example of a
Sorry,
nest. Can you
I
hear me?
cannot hear you. Yeah, now we can hear
Oh,
you again.
hi. Hi. My favorite example of a series of nested pieces of legislation is the building codes. There's a national building code which sets a minimum standard for building construction all across Canada. And that's sort of the base level of quality and safety for construction, no matter where you are or what you're doing. But then each province has either they adopt the national code or they create their own provincial building code. Ontario has the Ontario Building Code, which follows the national code, but is more restrictive in terms of what you can do and what you can't do. It enhances the requirements of the national code, makes them stronger. And so you're building to a higher standard if you follow the Ontario code than the national code. But there are also municipal construction regulations that you have to meet as well that are more stringent again than the provincial code requires. So they might have to do with accessibility or things like that. So a particular municipality can make rules around construction that are more stringent again from the Ontario code, which itself is more stringent than the national code. So these are nested pieces of legislation, and that's sort of how it all fits together. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. But now I have a question. So since the municipal they depend on provincial, so if the province thinks this municipal bylaw or code is too strict, can they ask them, to cancel it?
It's a really good question because it's actually the municipalities that issue building permits. And the way the restrictions increase as you go down the totem pole is that, say, for example, accessibility requirements in the national code require a door width for the passage of a wheelchair of, say, 30 inches, right? The Ontario code would make that door wider. It would make it more easy to get through with a wheelchair. And a local municipal code might say, okay, well, if the national code says 30 and the Ontario building code says 32 or 36, we're going to make it 38. And we're going to say the new door construction that happens in Toronto will be 38 inches wide so that a motorized scooter can get through it. Right. So it's not that you're going to go back to the province and say, I want to build a less inclusive door. You would follow the local codes in that case, and you would build to that. Because really you're dependent on the local municipality for the building permit itself, right?
Yeah, but if a builder say they think the city by the code is not reasonable, is too too costly, and can they go to province and said, oh, tell the city not to have this code?
I don't know. I think there are constant squabbles between levels of government. I mean, Terry would be much better at sort of outlining this than I would. But I'm thinking, so for example, the Ontario Ministry of Transportation a number of years ago passed a piece of legislation that allowed certain situations where electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles could be tested. So it laid out the possibility for municipalities to decide whether or not to opt into a program of pilot projects where they would test things like allowing e-bikes on the streets, allowing e-delivery bikes or vans, allowing e-scooters on the roads, etc. A lot of municipalities have explicit bylaws that prohibit things like e-scooters. And so there's an ongoing debate about whose rules are we following, right? Are we following the provincial rules that allow e-scooters on streets, or do we follow the municipal bylaw that says you can't? And the way that that's kind of a messy example, because there are a lot of people who use e-scooters on public roads and sidewalks who shouldn't, because the bylaw specifically prohibits that, but there's no enforcement, so people get away with it.
Okay.
Yeah, my only contribution to the discussion and to your point that you were making, Ann, is that if you look at the whole thing in historical context, the evolution of the Canadian political system, of which this is an example that we're talking about here, has moved towards power from below going up rather than power from above coming down. And if you look at the long history of the institutions, you'll see that that's the case. However, built into the system are ways of reversing that if necessary, so that if in fact bylaws are getting out of hand in favor of somebody in particular, say builders, then there are ways of those who wish to curb that within the system to change the bylaws. Now, obviously, the most immediate would be in a municipal election. So therefore, you have to elect different people as your councillors. But we all know that although officially the councillors, and mostly, are not connected to a political party, in fact, and I know this from having been involved in municipal politics for about 10 years, they are. Okay. In other words, everyone really knows that the councillors who run with no flag, as it were, which is what 99% of them do, they don't have a political flag. Everybody knows that they have a connection, as it were, upstairs, which is to say, in the provincial and even in the federal, but certainly in the provincial, because that's the important connection for reasons we've already discussed, that the municipal is dependent upon the provincial. Everyone knows that there are those connections. So, for example, we were just talking about your
election
members of parliament
members of parliament.
at the various or representatives at various levels.
Right, yeah.
Right. So Stephen mentioned he had a provincial representative, and he talked a little bit about an MPP, and he mentioned his councillor, and he didn't mention his federal member.
Yeah.
You mentioned her by name.
Actually, oh right, yeah.
But you didn't mention, for example, that she worked in Shelley Carroll's office.
Right.
As a municipal politician, in a sense. She wasn't the politician.
You're talking about the city councilor, right?
I'm talking about the provincial member.
Oh,
Maggie.
provincial. Oh, Maggie. Oh, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Maggie worked in Shelley's office. Okay.
Mm.
So everyone knows, who understands how the political system works, is that there are connections between the various levels, and that in order to get something done, and I'm talking about some major thing, I don't mean getting your garbage collected or something, you need to understand these sorts of things. So that, to give an example of my own, I had a fraud involving my property and some renovations that were taking place. My first step was to go to Shelley Carroll for the reasons that because she's my councillor, and she's also important because she was the chair of the police board, and she's also the chair of the budget committee. But perfectly clearly, the next level, if nothing happens, is to go to the provincial level, because, as you probably know, there was recently a scandal on the police in the police service of Toronto, and the province came down very hard on that, which you'd expect them to do.
Yeah, I should give you an example too.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that I understand that those three levels are all connected. So screaming at Shelley is going to be a good place to start. I don't mean personally screaming at her. I just mean getting, and then the next. Yeah. But then provincially, somebody who worked in her office is the next person I go to. And there is a Liberal Party connection.
Mm.
She's a Liberal. I'm talking about Maggie. She runs as a Liberal, right? So the point is that there's a connection there, and she's at the federal level. Now, why would I be interested in the federal level?
Mm.
Well, because I think it was international gangsters that were involved in it.
Mm.
So it makes sense to make a noise everywhere
Mm.
in order to. Now, I don't know if that helps the person who was asking about whether or not they can
Mm.
they get information from you that they can then use against you.
Mm.
I'm suggesting you can use
Mm.
them to get something done by recognizing that there are connections between them.
Mm.
And this can involve even the change of laws. If you're
Yeah.
in a movement that's trying to change, for example, the tenants' rights or something like
Yeah.
this.
So Terry, I think that's a very good response. Yeah, I think so one of the questions as listed here is
Mm.
do you know who the MPs, MPPs, and the city councillors are in your community? Do you think they're helpful and engaging in the community where you're living? In other words, let's say, like when you have issues, would you reach out to them? And just as Terry suggested, like how do you interact with them, that kind of thing. So anybody has any experience with that? Or any insights you want to share with the group? Yeah, Terry just gave his personal example.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Judith.
Judith? Yeah.
Hi. Well, I have a lot of experience with my municipal councillor on purpose because my experience of being part of, a group that wants to get climate action in Canada and in Ontario and Toronto. And so I belong to something called the Wards Project. So we have 25 wards in Toronto. And out of those wards, each one has a councillor. And my councillor, which is, a young shepherd area, the Willowdale, is Lily Chang. And so the idea of this project was to get to know your counselor so that you can actually go and talk to them and ask for certain things to be done, or at least ask for her, because she's the one that makes the vote, regarding different things in the city. And so I have done so, and boy, it's made a difference. I felt very much connected in a way to the municipality that I never had before. Not everything is going to come about because I happen to ask, but at least I feel part of it, and I think that's really important.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Judith. I think that's encouraging. Yeah, it's good to be part of the community. It's great to connect to the community under the help of the leaders in the community, right? In this case, I'm city councillors. Right? You're talking about that?
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's how you get something done.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to push for it, as these folks have, through a group of people in different wards, different areas of the city, coming together as a coalition, as a group.
Yeah. So Terry, you have been living in Canada for years. So in this regard, do you have any specific experience you want to share with the group? Like how you got the support from the MPs, MPPs, or city councillors when you came to some
Well,
life challenges?
yes, I've had quite a lot of examples of needing to approach, and I gave you one a few moments ago, needing to approach some level of government. But I think the important thing not to do is to be cynical about government. And that's unfortunately what we see, I think, growing in our society. It's the cynicism. In other words, being more than just skeptical. Should be skeptical. You should, doubt what people are saying to a significant degree. But if you're cynical about the whole thing, this will not help the community. One has to see the way the thing works, find out the way it works. It can be quite complex. Basically trust it as having worked over time.
Sorry.
and changed, and this is my last point, and then go on up, go ahead, and changed to fit changing circumstances. And if you're in a society in which that has happened, and I think I can say that it has in Canada over the years that I've been here, the system has modified itself, and that's what you expect of an evolutionary system. And we haven't had to have a series of violent revolutions in order to make changes. That has not been the case for some countries. I don't have to mention any names. So the thing is that I'm very much impressed by the stability of Canada. And I think I told you, I'm not sure if I told everyone, I came from England as a child. My mother was a war widow. And my father, who was killed in the Second World War in the Royal Air Force, his pilot, he was a navigator. His parents, this pilot who was killed's parents, brought my mother and I to Canada to start anew as sponsored immigrants. And they were wonderful people. And so I have to sort of have a rah-rah at the end there, because that really was the right thing to do. And it got away from the trauma of the old country with lots of people dying in the war and all this kind of stuff. And it did make the possibility of a new start real. However, one had to do something. You don't just sit around and wait for things to happen to you. You have to actually get involved and do something. And that's why I became interested in politics, amongst other things, but particularly politics, studied it, and actually went into practical politics for a while, not as a candidate, but as a writing association president and this kind of stuff. And I would encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, thank you for your encouragement, Terry. I think that's important for us as new immigrants or new citizens to know. The governments are set up to help the residents, the citizens, and we should make use of that. So any other sharing, any other stories or questions, comments? Yeah, otherwise then let's go to the first question. I think this is theoretical, and also you can relate to your personal experience to contribute to the discussion here. So do you think the different functions of the federal and the provincial governments affect your daily lives? If yes, can you give one or two examples? So, Jen, you want to go ahead?
Yes, of course. I think immigration policy, that's from the federal, that for sure everyone will feel that, like especially the refugees and those policies. And the number of refugee Canada is accepting is impacting everyone's life, because like I remember last year we had a like in our communities, like who were, I think it's across different levels of the government, from federal to provincial and then to city. We will have, like, city have to support to allocate a space for to support to build the asylum for the asylum seekers, and then the community, like residents, have strongly object to those because they are not sure how will it be, how safe their community would be after these asylum are built. So have a lot of like protest against these, and in the end it did make like the protest did change some of the decisions, but we are not sure yet, because everyone knows these people need some place to stay. How can we make sure they can have a good place stay, while also we have to help them to adapt to this local community, so that they become also very helpful to the community instead of being so like people not sure about, right? Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Jane. I just want to comment on this. Yes, any changes of the policies definitely, yeah, can make difference to our daily lives. Sometimes we might think it's a long distance from us, right? But actually, can be affecting to us directly or the people who are around us. Last time, Young asked a question on the position I gave. So let's say one of the changes on the policy of the refugees climate. I was running to a case, a friend of mine, she's a refugee from Iran, and she came a year ago, but now she received a letter from the government saying she's not eligible for the claim because she filed her application after a year um, when she came into Canada. Yeah, so but this policy is new, is newly made. So this is how we can see the change of the policy can affect affect us or our like people who are in our lives, right? Yeah. So Summer yeah has a question.
Yeah. Uh, Good evening, everyone. So I would like to share some of my personal experience in regarding to deal with or MP or MPP, etc. So it's quite interesting is that I'm in the process of applying for PR. However, in my file was sent to security screening, which has been taking almost like forever to come through. So, once after the file reaches some certain distance, and I felt it was need to try to understand what's exactly going on with my application. So that's where I learned that MP is the right channel to reach out to. So I reach out to our MPs, and they sounds like they might have some channel to connect with RRCC. And that's how, I got contact with our MP on a regular basis, like every couple months or etc. or 3 months. They would help me to on behalf of me and to connect with RRCC and try to understand where my application stands in the process. So that's something that I learned, as a constituent of my area. MPP is a sort of the channel or authority to reach out for any sort of assistance or information or communication with RRCC if that sort of communication channel is not available on our end. That was something that I learned about, as a Chinese applicant and trying to understand. And also, I would like to share because recently it sounds like a lot of Chinese applicants were stuck in there's something called security screening. Recently there were like 100, 200 people, went to Ottawa at Parliament Hill on March 13th to utter their voice about the concerns of the delay of their PR application due to the indefinite security screening process. And also recently on March 1st, there were another, I think, 200 people showed up in Vancouver. They gathered at the Vancouver Art Gallery and also marched towards RRCC office in Vancouver to make a presence and uttering their concerns. So actually, I want to share with everyone with the e-petition that I'm just sending out now. It has like 4 or 3 days left for people to sign a petition because this petition is sponsored by one of the MPs in Ontario, and she's supporting this one because some of the constituents in her area reached out to her asking for support. and sponsorship so that people's voice could be heard, that there's a large group of Chinese applicants who are stuck in this, indefinite security screening process, because it really brings a lot of damage and harm to the family reunion plans, or, the financial and also mental health issues. So I'm just sharing this in this tiny window in case someone is interested to take a look, because there's only 3 days left. And if you feel like to, support this one, and you're welcome to, submit signature. It's just basically, within a couple seconds, you can fill in your name and email address, and that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Summer. That's very valuable experience, I believe.
Mhm.
So we can see that it's there's something we can do, yeah, when it comes to make a difference, right? So I think it's tied up to the third question I was going to ask us. That is, how can you contribute to the development of the community as a resident in Canada, whatever status you have? So any insights, any more stories, experiences, wisdom to share with the group? So Terry, yeah. So as a Canadian citizen, so how can you contribute to the community based on your
Well,
experience and knowledge, wisdom?
sure. Well, that's a
Big question, I know,
big
but
question. Well, I think that if you're outgoing as a person, if you are a person who is interested in other people, uh, uh, find ways to use that. There are many different ways in which one can contribute to the building of the community as a whole and the communities that make up the community as a whole. It was another Canadian Prime Minister in the past, Joe Clark, who described Canada as a community of communities. Now, I think that's very apt, meaning simply not just that it was a good thing to say at the time, because this was some decades ago, but that it's always been a good thing. The entire history of the country is being able to get along with other people different from yourself. And I don't know if this was mentioned previously, but the report after the rebellions in Upper and Lower Canada in the 1830s that Lord Durham gave. He came from England as the governor, and he didn't really know what was going on, as is often the case. And he said, there's two things that you should do to fix this problem in Upper and Lower Canada. One is responsible government, meaning change the way in which the country, the two, as they were at the time, colonies, Upper and Lower Canada, are governed. And have some of and this process was already beginning in England itself with the Great Reform Bill of 1832. So this is in the 1830s, and have the power come up from the colonists and others. And some people at the time, believe it or not, even then, recognized that the indigenous people should have something to do with it, although they didn't use the term indigenous people. That was one recommendation. The other recommendation was get everybody to speak the same language. That was the recommendation that was not taken. His first recommendation was terrific because it really worked here. It was more difficult in a country such as England itself or Britain itself, where the class structure had been like that forever. It's very difficult to change it, even in a time of great movement in society that the Industrial Revolution had brought. But in Canada, it was possible. But what the subsequent Canadian governors general and others ruling in the country recognized that his second recommendation would have destroyed the country. Because if you make absolutely everybody the same, when they're in fact not the same, and they had different branches of the Christian religion, Roman Catholic primarily in Quebec and Protestant in Upper Canada or Ontario, and you force them together to all speak English, you would have had ongoing trouble. And so what was recommended was, as Stephen alluded to there, biculturalism, so that when the idea of multiculturalism came along, it was actually invented in the United States to explain why people in the United States kept the original cultures through several generations, whether they were Italians or whatever they were. It would actually work in Canada as a national policy, and it does. This is what's often described as a Canadian mosaic. So if it sounds as if I'm giving a rah-rah speech again about how wonderful everything worked out, it really did work out well. Not without conflict, but with it manageable conflict. And this is the key issue, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Terry. I mean, that's you're giving a very intellectual and comprehensive.
And also, I'm advertising the country to people who
Okay,
probably already
so I guess
are interested.
yeah, Summer's hand is up. So you want to say more? Is that Summer here? I see your hand is
Oh,
up.
sorry, I forgot to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. So any other insights? Like any other thinking, thoughts?
Yes, I think Judith should have a lot of experience in how to exactly work with the government, how to tackle issues you are concerned with. Yeah.
Well, yes, I mean, Terry's got it down pat. You write the letters, you do the emails, you sign the petitions, you show up like that other lady was saying on the, if it's a protest, if it's there. And these are, you're, in other words, you put yourself in the middle of it, not just on the buy, and you have to listen to different sides too, and that's kind of hard because of our biases we have, but you've got to take time to do a little research on it. Don't just take what, especially from alternative media, that kind of can make a huge difference in the way you look at things. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I've lived all my whole life in Canada, in Toronto and Mississauga, and I got on the library board in Mississauga. So I was young. I was only in my 30s, I guess, and pushed that I could get on the library board. This is because I was a teacher librarian, and I learned quite quickly that I was, they took that particular job as a stepping stone to something else, to get into politics. I wasn't interested. I was more interested in making sure that the new children's library, or the library, would have a good children's section. I remember kind of fighting for that. And then when I came here, now I'm fighting in the sense of wanting things done in so many ways: transportation, building, streets, bike lanes, all those kinds of things. So keeps me very, very busy at learning about these things, as well as contributing.
So you work closely with your city councillor, basically.
Well, yes. I mean, closely, she doesn't ask me any, as I said, she doesn't ask me any questions. I ask her the questions. But she's like, because I'm interested in the climate. So she's got climate roundtable, and it happens. She's got like, this is the 8th one since she got into office. And this is something that I know a lot of the other councillors don't do. And she gets people interested in everything from tree planting, gardening, to, well, as I say, building, transportation, and heat pumps and EVs. So that's really good. And that way I do work with her, because I help to develop those roundtables. And I also helped to develop an eco fair because we didn't have that in Willowdale. So once you sort of get in, then people ask you to help. It's about doing a lot for free, you know. So
Yeah, and how, I wonder how about Ian? Ian, you have participated in a lot of national projects, yeah?
Yeah, I've been involved in making submissions to government at the federal level to as a stakeholder to inform the crafting of regulations for some recent legislation that was put through in November of 24 called the National Eye Care Strategy. And being involved with the vision loss community here in Toronto and having connections to other organizations and groups across the country, I was in a good position to help craft some of the information that we felt that government needed to consider when drafting the regulations. So we'll see. They're going to publish the regulations very soon, actually, in the next week or so. So we'll see if they heard us. But you know, one of the things that I have said many times is that people in government can't hear you if you don't speak. So you have an obligation, not an obligation, but there's an old political adage that you can't complain about an election if you don't vote. Because if you didn't vote, then you didn't exercise your right as a voter to influence that election. So I think Terry's point that you need to be, and Judith's point that you need to participate in the process in order to feel that, you know, change can be possible.
Will have some impact. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Your effort. Do you have any experience or tricks to, you know, improve the efficiency?
I think if I were going to make a suggestion, politicians get inundated with a lot of calls from a lot of people on a lot of different topics. Sometimes it's just people who are angry about something and just need somewhere to vent. But if you really want to create change, I think, in my view anyway, I think you need to do a little bit of homework. You need to understand what pressures the politicians are under. What are their constraints? What can they do? What can't they do? And have whatever it is that you're arguing for really clearly laid out with as much sort of backing information and evidence as you can gather. It's not enough to say that, you know, a policy is hurting people. You have to give examples of who and when and how it's hurting people. It's not enough to say that you want, you know, a certain change in legislation because it would just be good for everybody. You have to actually show who it would be good for and in what way. So I think you build a better case by doing some homework up front and getting yourself organized, and bringing as many people with you as you can. And what I mean by that is reaching out to others in the community or community organizers, different kinds of organizations or businesses who have a stake in whatever it is you're fighting for. Add their voices to your voice, because politicians will listen to you know, something that has some momentum behind it. If it's just one person bringing a complaint forward, they may or may not take it seriously. But if they realize that this is a topic that has a lot of people interested in it, and a lot of people are watching carefully what the outcome will be, they're a lot more likely to take it seriously and take it up with their fellows in the House.
Thank you. It's a very valuable experience.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So,
how
yeah,
about
I can see the time. I think we're running time. Maybe we should go to the English quiz.
Oh, okay. Because I
Yeah.
was going to ask Remier and Mason. They're they're here too, and I'm sure they have some experience. But yeah, so maybe Jen, you can share the English quiz, and yeah, invite
You guys
everybody to
continue with the discussion,
yeah
and I'll share the
the
quiz doc.
quiz.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you
Okay.
do the quiz, Jen will collect your name, and at the end of tonight, she'll run the lucky draw
Okay.
to give away the vouchers to El Premier Food Mart.
Okay. Now
Um,
I start.
yeah.
Okay. The quiz started.
Well,
So
for us
yeah,
blind people, you'll have to read it.
yeah, yeah. So Jen, can you read the
Sure.
Mhm.
So the first question is Canada's Member of Parliament, MPs, are elected to represent different geographic areas across the country. They can voice concerns in the House of Commons on behalf of individuals living in these areas. Is this statement true or false? A, true, B, false. The second question is, in order to be eligible to run for the position of an Ontario MPP, candidates must be 18 years of age or older, a Canadian citizen, and a resident of the province. To become a candidate for a particular political party, individuals must be nominated by the party. If they are not affiliated with any party, then they cannot run for the position. Is this statement true or false? A, true. B, false.
B.
Okay, third question. When
Oops.
not at the legislative, MPPs have a number of responsibilities in their home ridings. Which one of the following does not fall into the category? A, meeting with constituents to listen to their concerns. B, helping to resolve matters related to provincial government services. C, attend community events such as school openings or local fundraisers. D, attending sittings in the chamber. That's 4 choices. And then the fourth question. If you are concerned about a matter related to garbage removal in your community, which one of the following offices can you call? A, MP's office. B, an MPP's office. C, a councillor's office. The fifth question. Which one of the following is not considered to be part of the responsibilities of the federal government? A, Crown Corporation. B, citizenships and passports. C, national defense and international trade. D, health. Okay, that's all the quiz.
Thank you, Jen. So is Mason here? Mason, would you like to share anything?
Hi, Ian. I'm
Hi.
here, Ian, and Ian, how are you? Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's very, very good discussion. I like it. I enjoyed it, and lots of stuff also I learned. And yeah, I really agree with Ian that if you want to change something, you need to be part of it. It's true, yeah. Especially for Asian community, normally we're like for example, our personality is more introvert. Sometimes we don't voice up. Ian is right. You need to voice your thoughts, what you want, and then the government will do the things. If you don't, you just follow, then certain good thing may not be happening as you wished. So I totally I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
And is Remia here? Or Remia maybe left? Okay. So Jen, when the time is over, it just can
Yeah,
tell people.
I got six replies so far. 2 more seconds. I'll continue. Okay,
Mhm.
so 5 minutes end. Okay.
Mhm.
Steven, maybe you can explain the
Give the answers.
answer.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one, the first one is true. Yeah. So because they are representatives of the people in the writings, right? So they can voice their concerns. Yeah. So the second one, yeah. So the answer is false, right? So if they are not affiliated with any party, they can still run for the position. This can still run the campaign. So yeah, when it comes to the election part, we're gonna explore more. So hopefully by the time we can develop more understanding of the topic. Yeah. So the third question, the answer is C. Yeah. So and number 4. Yes, you have some matters that are related to something like garbage removal, right? I give one example of Terry's case. Yeah, so he called the councillor's office. Yeah, so this is supposed to be related to the councillor's duties. Yeah, so
Just
yeah.
don't you just call 311?
Yeah,
But 311 belongs to municipality. Yeah, it's
that's right.
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So number 5. Okay. So the answer is the D. Yeah. Health. Yeah. Health is under the provincial government. Yeah. So the first 3 are under the federal government. Yeah. Okay. So everybody has done good job.
For inquiries, please contact info@eawlc.org or visit our website at www.eawlc.org.